If an alien landed and asked you to explain who Brock Purdy is to the Niners and his position in the quarterbacking hierarchy throughout the league, what would you tell someone who had never seen Brock Purdy before?
I would say Brock Purdy won't work nearly as well for many other offenses, but for this particular offense with this particular coach, he's working extremely well. And that's why he is worth more to the Niners than he is to most other teams, and why he deserves to be paid like he was for the Niners. It's sort of the similar situation. It's really interesting with the parallels from the coaching tree, obviously, but with Mike McDaniel and Tua down in Miami. Like if you stuck 25 other starting quarterbacks on the Miami Dolphins, they would not be able to execute that offense the way that Tua does. They have to have a super quick time to release. They have to get the ball out quickly. It has to be accurate because that offensive line is horrific. And Tua is just perfect for that offense and deserves to be paid for the Dolphins, whereas he might not get that same type of capital elsewhere. The same is true, in my opinion, for Brock Purdy with Kyle Shanahan. So, he's going to get dinged where you look at him league-wide because he doesn't have the prototypical build. He doesn't have the prototypical arm. But if you look at some of the deep passing accuracy and the deep passing efficiency, Brock Purdy's numbers stand up right there with the rest of the
Number
NFL.
One, for a guy who's got a rag arm, he keeps on hitting these downfield passes quite often.
Right, exactly. And so, and you look at that, what he had to deal with last year, he had to throw the football into tighter windows last year because his receivers weren't getting the separation. I detail it in my book about the tighter windows that he was being forced to throw the ball into, but he's still delivering yards per attempt, EPA per attempt, success rate, completion percentage over expectation, the likes that other quarterbacks simply aren't doing. And he's having to do it behind an injured offensive line with a receiving core that you had very few games where, Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey are actually on the field together. The number of snaps.
57 plays. That's what you
57.
got. 57. We were healthy today plays for the entire year for that offense.
Which is absolutely absurd for a quarterback to have to deal with, but yet he still performed. And I think the bulk of those losses, if you're going to say, well, who gets the blame pie, the percentage of pie, the majority of it goes to the defense. And then some of it goes to the simple fact that, you can trick the other team and you can out execute them for a while, but at some point talent ends up taking over. It's why like NBA series go 7 games and eventually usually the best team wins. But in a 1-game series, there could be some upsets there and you would have some bad teams making it all the way to the NBA finals, and they don't really want that. Well, with football, it's the same type of thing. You could have execution from a roster coached by Kyle Shanahan and quarterbacked by a guy who's perfect for his team to outperform and out-execute a defense for 3 quarters. But eventually, there's a lack of receivers and some of the dropped passes and some of the closely contested passes that Brock is trying to fit in there. It's just not going to go your way. And especially when you factor in failures down inside of the red zone, which Christian McCaffrey, he dictates how defenses line up. He dictates how they play. And with him not on the field, it becomes much more difficult from a play calling perspective, let alone an execution perspective. If you're not capitalizing some of those areas, and you mentioned the field goal luck issues earlier, this is what turns wins into losses. And they're unfortunate. Like, you can't afford to have these things happen to you in 2025 with the schedule, with everything lining up for you. You can't afford to have red zone failures that lose games. You can't afford to have field goal misses that lose games. You can't afford to have games that you're winning that you just give back to the opponent if you want to get to where you want to get to, which is obviously another trip through the playoffs into the Super Bowl and hopefully winning it this time.